The Miller's Two Sons. A long time ago, in the rolling hills of Yorkshire, there was this little village with stone cottages, green fields, and a river that never stopped running. At the edge of the village stood an old water mill. It was run by Henry, a tired old miller who had spent his whole life grinding grain into flour. He worked hard, but he was always poor. Henry had two sons. The older one, George, was steady and obedient. The younger one, Thomas, was different. He was restless, always looking beyond the mill, always wondering, is this all there is for me? Just pulling at this mill for the rest of my life? When Henry grew too old, he handed the mill to his boys. George did exactly what his father taught him. He ground grain every day, took his small fee, and saved every penny in a jar. But Thomas couldn't stand it. He'd look at the turning wheel and think, my father spent his whole life here, and still he never escaped poverty. Am I supposed to end up the same? One night, Thomas met a traveling merchant at the crossroads. The man looked him in the eye and said, "You look troubled, son. What's wrong?" Thomas sighed. "I don't want to die in that mill, but I don't see another way." The merchant smiled. "If you spend your whole life trading hours for pennies, you'll crawl forever on the slow lane. But if you dare to create something people truly need, you'll find the fast lane. It's harder, but it leads to freedom." Those words kept Thomas awake the whole night. Not long after, Thomas noticed something. Every week, villagers had to carry their flour to the city bakery just to have it baked into bread. It cost them time and money. And he thought, why not bake bread right here in the village? But when he shared the idea, the whole village laughed. A miller's son baking bread? What a joke! We'd break our teeth on his bread. Even George shook his head. "Thomas, stop dreaming. Grinding grain is safe. Don't throw your life away." But Thomas couldn't let it go. He sold a piece of their land and bought a small oven. Then came failure. His first loaves? Black, burnt, hard as stone. Kids actually threw them at each other like rocks. His second batch? Flat, ugly, tasteless. Nobody wanted them. People demanded their money back. Soon, Thomas was broke. His clothes grew ragged. He often went to bed hungry, staring at the cold oven. Villagers whispered, he should have listened to his brother. He'll be begging by winter. The ridicule stung. Some nights, Thomas sat with his head in his hands, wondering if George had been right all along. But Thomas was stubborn. He refused to give up. He walked for miles to other towns, begging bakers to teach him. Most slammed their doors. One baker even hurled a stale loaf at him and shouted, "Go back to your mill." Others mocked him, laughed at his muddy clothes, and called him a fool for wanting to bake. But Thomas was determined. He peeked through windows whenever he could, careful not to be seen, memorizing every move. How the bakers kneaded, folded, and slid the loaves into the ovens. Sometimes, though, a baker would catch him spying and shoo him away, or even swat at him with a broom. Rain poured down, wind howled, and yet Thomas would stand soaked, shivering, practicing with the few scraps of dough he had, refusing to give up. He burned his hands, ruined countless batches, and wasted what little flour he had left. Finally, after months of trial and error, he tried again. This time, something changed. The dough rose just right. The fire stayed steady. At dawn, a golden smell drifted down the village streets. People followed the scent to his little shop. Thomas pulled out loaves that were warm, soft, and golden brown. They took one bite, and their eyes widened. It was delicious. Word spread. The same villagers who mocked him now lined up outside his bakery. Thomas's bakery exploded with success. He hired helpers, expanded his ovens, and even supplied bread to nearby villages. Years later, he opened a big bakery in London, where carriages lined the street to buy his loaves. Meanwhile, George stayed at the mill. His hair turned gray, his back bent. He saved his pennies faithfully, but it was never enough. He still struggled each winter to buy coal. Years later, after their father passed, the two brothers stood in front of the old mill. George sighed. "I walked the safe road all my life, steady but slow. And now, when I might finally enjoy it, my youth is gone." Thomas looked at the wheel turning one last time and said, "Brother, you chose the slow lane. I chose the fast lane." The fast lane was painful, uncertain, and full of failure. But it gave me freedom while I was still young enough to live. The old mill wheel turned slower and slower until it stopped. Yet the river kept flowing, carrying with it their youth, hard work, quarrels, laughter, and dreams. George had chosen the safe road, Thomas the uncertain one. They chose different roads, different lives, each shaped by the choices they made. Moral: if you spend your life trading time for pennies, you'll spin forever like the mill wheel. But if you dare to create, to risk, to learn, you can find the fast lane, the road to freedom.